What's happening here? Producer here, working. What is happening? Are you excited? Sorry, folks. Give me a second. Got some issues on Facebook. I'm not going live at the moment. I see my. Okay, I see that. I see that. Complete post details. Okay. Oh. Hold on. Bear with me, my YouTube folks. If you're on here waiting, give me a second. Got a glitch in the system. User error. I got to be honest. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, everybody. Okay, let's go. For some reason, I've got to fill out some information on here. Bear with me a second. Okay, hold on. Almost there. Almost there. Farewell to summer. Okay, in the description. We're almost there, folks. When I mean almost, I mean almost. Oh gosh, I've already filled that out. Hold on. It's making me do this again. Almost. I promise it's worth the wait. All right, let's see if that does it. All right, go live now. Okay, we're live, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to today's part one of a 2-day painting workshop on the Painting with Jesse page here on both Facebook and on the YouTube channel. So if you're not familiar with the YouTube channel, it's called Painting with Jesse, just like that. If you are, hold on one second. If you are unfamiliar with the Facebook page, it's same thing, Painting with Jesse. Give me a second while I lower my fan over here. It sounds like it's a little bit on the loud side. So I'm just giving it a couple of minutes to let people find the feed. It's sometimes Facebook is a little glitchy. Sometimes it's user error. Sometimes it's Facebook. Today, I think it's a little bit of both. But it's going to take a little bit for people to find the feed and get the notifications that people are, or that I am live. You guys, I see some comments already. What's happening, Denise from Oklahoma? Pamela Wright, how are you? Hey, Rose, how are you? Okay, cool. I hadn't even noticed the comments were already popping up. Missed them. Okay, there we go. All right. So, my name is Jesse. For those of you that are not familiar with me, maybe it's your first time painting with me, my name is Jesse. I am the host and artist here on the Painting with Jesse page on both Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, if you're not already following the page, please do so, because at least once a month I come on here and do one live stream session that is open to everybody. Anyone can join. Okay, so if you're not following the page, there's other stuff I give out stencils and things like that. But anyway, if you're not following the page, please make sure to do so. If you're on YouTube and you don't know that I've got a Facebook page, come on over and follow it over here. You're gonna miss out on a lot of the good stuff. Okay, there is a link in the description of the video to the email list. If you're not on there, you want to jump on the list, click on that, and it'll take you to a landing page where you can fill out the details. Also, for today's session, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail in just a minute, I'm going to be doing everything from scratch. I paint the entire thing from scratch. We're going to be doing it over 2 sessions. Today's day 1. I sent out to the email list, I sent out a kind of a bonus fact sheet and a stencil for the piece. For those of you that need a little extra help, maybe you're more of a beginner, maybe you're not comfortable painting just yet, or you're just kind of getting started, I did provide a stencil for the painting. It has, the break for the ocean. It's got some minor details in here. It's got the birds. It's got the sunset. It's got some of the clouds. So it'll help you with some of the placement of some of these elements in the piece. Okay, if you are part of the email list, that went out 2 times already. Went out a couple of days ago, and then it went out again earlier today. If you have not received it, if you were on the list and didn't receive it, make sure you check your promotions inbox. Sometimes my emails end up there. So there is a stencil for it, but again, I'm going to be teaching everything from scratch. There's also a fact sheet that I sent out that kind of gives you some extra details that can help you if you are a newer painter. All right, so that's again, if you're not part of the list, so if you are already a part of the list, if you're not part of the list, in the link that's in the description, when you sign up, it takes you to the email landing page. Once you sign up, you immediately thereafter, like seconds after, get access to that same PDF and stencil set. Okay, so if you're not signed up for it yet and you're interested in getting that, please click on that link that's in the description and it'll take you right over there. And then you can come back and paint with us. Okay, so both, I mentioned it's a 2-day workshop. Today's day 1, tomorrow is day 2, same time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Oh, really quickly, I need to make sure you guys can hear me. Let's see, can everybody hear me okay? Katie Sanchez, hey Katie, welcome back. Says, I'm so excited to paint with you. Andy says, this is awesome. Awesome, sounds like you guys can hear me. I don't see any complaints about you guys can't hear me. Sometimes I jump on and I forget to turn my mic on, and I'll ramble for a little bit and then realize that I'm not on yet. So anyway, so again, that's the information about the PDF. It is a 2-day workshop. Today's day 1, tomorrow's day 2. We're going to take our time through this. This isn't anything that we can hurry through and have a nice piece at the end. Unless you've got lots of experience and you know what you're doing, then you can go a little faster. But even for myself, and I've been painting for many years, something like this takes me some time to build up. It's about painting in layers. Okay, so again, 2 sessions. We take our time. Each session we're going to be painting for about 1 hour and 45 minutes from the start of the actual painting part of it. Right now I'm just going through the introduction and giving you guys some of the details so you understand what's happening if you're not really familiar with my page or the process. Okay, so both sessions are being recorded. If you can't attend the lives, they're going to both be available for replay. When the session's all done today, I'll be shooting out an email to the list saying, hey guys, if you missed day 1, here's the link to the recording. Okay, so same thing with tomorrow. Once the session's over, I'll shoot out an email to everyone letting you know where to find the recording. They'll be right here on the Facebook page and on the YouTube page. I know sometimes they're a little difficult to pinpoint, but that is going out tomorrow. Now, that's a question that's going to come up often during the session. People are going to ask, hey, is this recorded? Is it going to be available for replay? It sure is. I'm going to leave it up for at least a month. So for those of you that want to come back, you're going to have a little bit of time to finish the piece. Okay? I've got a whole lot of things to talk about, but I don't, at the moment, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. They'll come to me as I'm going through the session. Okay? So in just a little bit, we're going to talk about the supplies list for the sessions, but really quickly, just to make a little announcement, next week, I'm going to be teaching you guys, I'm going to have a session where I teach you guys how to make what's called a wet palette. And I'll talk about this in a little bit. I'll show you guys how to use one of these I'm going to be using this during the session. It's not anything crazy. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. You know what this is and you want to use it, cool. But this one's one that I bought, but I'm going to be teaching a class live on how to make one of these with some real basic products. Basically, it's a way to keep your paints wet while we are painting. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the information on that sometime next week. I don't know the date yet. I'll come up with that by tomorrow and I'll post it. But it keeps your paints fresh. Okay, so I'll talk about that as we're painting. All right, so next week. And then in September, at the end of the month, or towards the end of the month, I have a guest artist that's going to be coming on the page with me, where she's going to be teaching how to paint using the one-stroke method. Not sure if any of you are familiar with it. It's a really cool method, really popular with especially florals, flowers. You can do lots of different things with the technique. It's called a one-stroke painting. One-stroke painting. She's going to be on towards the end of next month, September. So be on the lookout for that information. If you're on the email list, you won't miss out. And so you want to make sure that you're on it and make sure that you're also following the page. Okay? All right, everybody, enough talking. It is 4:12, perfect time to start. And I'll be looking over at the comments as I'm going through and saying hello to some of you. But let's talk about what we're doing today. I mentioned there's 2 days of the session. Today, we're going to be toning the background, and I'll explain that in a moment. We're going to tone the background. We're going to paint in the background for the sky and for the water. And then we're going to focus the rest of the session on just the sky. Okay, by the end of today, our skies are going to look kind of like this. Everyone's going to have something a little different. Don't stress out about trying to create something exactly like what I've got. The idea is that I teach you, right? You're creating your own painting based on my instructions, but don't shoot for creating, or you can if you want, but don't make it something stressful where you're trying to recreate the exact version that I've got over here. Even the one that I create today is going to be a little different. Okay, so with that in mind, make sure that you guys are comfortable with the idea of having something that's going to look a little different. Different from me, different from anybody else that's going to be painting today. But by the end of today, this top part of the painting is going to be pretty complete. The water, we're just going to barely touch on it today, where we do the base layer of paint. And then tomorrow, that's what we're going to work on. The only thing that we're going to be leaving for tomorrow in the sky are the birds. Okay, so that being said, let's talk about the supplies. Brushes. I've got a big 1-inch flat brush. Okay, these are just suggested supplies. If you don't have these exact brushes, don't stress out about it. Primarily, this is going to be used for the background. Okay, so big 1-inch flat. Now I've got 2 of these. Don't stress out if you've only got one. This is a 1/2-inch flat brush. I've got one that's kind of fluffy, beat up, and old, where the bristles are all splayed out. I got one of those, and then I got one that's a little bit newer, a little bit cleaner. Okay, but 1/2-inch flat brush. I've got a number 4 flat brush. It's number 4 for detail work. I'll be using this on some of the clouds. I'll be using it on the waves and the water. Probably get more use tomorrow. But we got one of those. Then we've got a number 2 flat, smaller version of that other brush. Okay, small little brush for details, little lines, little clouds. Then I've got a number 2. I've got another number 2 that's similar to the one I just showed you, but this one's also fluffy and kind of beat up and old. Again, if you've only got one of those, it's all you need, so don't stress about it. Then I've got a little liner brush or round brush. This is for details, especially going to come in useful tomorrow when I paint in those birds. Okay, so those are the brushes for today. You want to have some paper towels handy. They're good to clean up your brushes. They're good to clean up messes, and sometimes we use them to clean up the actual canvas a little bit. So paper towels, always good to have. I'm going to be using plates today, these disposable plates to mix and things like that. I've got 2 water cups. Usually I've only got 1, but sometimes when I'm going to be doing lots of color mixing and things like that, I'll have 2. One that's kind of as backup when things get a little dirty, when the brushes get, or the water gets too dirty, I can just use the other. I'll switch them out. That's what I mean. I'll switch them out. Okay, and then as far as the colors today, pretty basic. Okay, actually, there's lots of them. There's lots of colors, but let me show you all of my colors. Looks like I'm missing one or two here. I don't know what I did with them, so give me a second. Okay, ultramarine blue. Okay, some primary blue. We're also going to be using some white. Very important that you have some white. We're going to be using white quite a bit to lighten up our colors and to, of course, add details like for some of the clouds and the waves. Then we've got some pink or magenta in my case, some dark purple. In my particular case, it's dioxazine purple. If you don't have these exact colors, again, don't stress. Use what you've got. Use the generic color. If it's orange, it's fine. For example, in this case, I've got cadmium yellow deep hue. Okay, and then I've got cadmium orange here. This one's a yellowish orange, and this one's more of a pinkish orange, a reddish orange. If you don't have both of those, you've only got one, that's all right. Okay, then I've got some burnt sienna. Okay, we got some. If you don't have burnt sienna, a good substitute for burnt sienna is brown, a mixture of brown and yellow. Okay, we'll talk about that here more in a little bit. Brown and orange, brown and yellow. Okay, those are good combos for that. Then I've got some cadmium red deep hue. Whatever red you've got is fine. Okay, I think I've already talked about the ultramarine blue. And then I've got some yellow, basic yellow. Okay, so those are the colors for today. Then, of course, as I mentioned, I'm going to be painting using a wet palette. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. If you've got a paper plate like this, simply put your colors on the plate just like that, or that'll help you. So I've got yellow, orange, pink, red. This is the burnt sienna, so your combination of brown and yellow. Whoops, I've got a little water dripping out of the palette. I've got some purple, my primary blue, and then I've got my ultramarine blue, white, and black. If you've only got one blue, that's all you're using. Don't stress about that either. All right, I'm going to be painting on a 11 by 14 inch canvas, which is what the original's on. If you got something different, that's perfectly okay. Are you guys all ready after all of that? Let me take a look at your questions. Lori says, can bottle acrylics be used thinner? They can. They sure can, Lori. I'm not sure how familiar you are with bottle acrylics, but absolutely you can use that. Okay. Let's see. Tina says acrylic paint is what he's using. Yep. Size of the canvas, 11 by 14. So it's acrylics, but this is called, if you're asking about my brand, Laura, this is Liquitex basic acrylic paints. Okay. And then let's see what's happening. Monica saying hello. Sue Cripe, hello to you. Monica Calder saying hello. Denise Williams, thumbs up. All right, everybody. So I think we're ready to go. So first thing we're going to start with is toning the background. Now this is an optional step. Basically what toning the background is you apply a light layer of color, pretty washed out color, uniform throughout the entire surface. In this case, I'm going to be using my burnt sienna. This kind of reddish brown, kind of rusty color is what I'm going to be using for that. We don't need a lot of paint for this. Even that I've got on my brush is probably too much. So I'm placing the paint here, and then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to dip my brush in the water. Okay, what I want to do, and I'll show you in a second exactly what's going on here. I'm taking my water, putting it on my plate like this, and I'm mixing these two together. So I'm trying to create a really nice, watery, kind of very transparent bit of it's almost like a watercolor, okay? And I'm just going to take this and my entire canvas, cover the whole thing. Now, if you don't have burnt sienna, as I mentioned, a little bit of brown and some orange, you're going to create it's almost like a ketchup color. If you ever look at some of those packets of ketchup and you see the liquid, you kind of get like a little bit of the water that seeps out sometimes, that separates itself from the bulky part of the ketchup. It's kind of that color. It's a brown orange color. And all we're doing, so toning a canvas can create mood. It brings everything together. The colors that come on top of this will all have a little bit of this kind of color peeking through a bit. So it transforms your painting, and you could use different colors for this. Usually it's one solid color. Some people like to mix their colors, but burnt sienna is a really popular one. Colors like ultramarine blue are really popular to tone canvases. Now, again, this is optional. You don't have to do this. If you're not, if you don't care to tone your canvas, it does help create some really rich tones and vibrant colors. And, so anyway, it is something that's optional. In our case today, it's optional. You don't have to do it, but it can definitely enhance your painting. And then just like I'm doing here, I'm painting in different directions. Up, down, left, right. Okay, all the way everywhere. When I'm done with my brush, I put it down. I'm going to take a paper towel here and just kind of quickly, I'm going to wipe down any excess. So what's left is a really thin layer of very transparent color. Okay, so and it's uneven. Doesn't really matter too much. In some cases, you can use that. The uneven effects that you can create, you can manipulate that to create varying strengths of that tone. But in this case, we're not worried about that. We're just leaving it at that. What's happening, Michelle? No worries. Sounds good, folks. If you can't paint with the live session, don't worry about it too much. If you can only paint for a little while, no problem. Okay, you can come on back and paint with the recorded session. Okay, so everyone has something like this or similar to it. I'm going to give you guys about a minute to kind of get here. Don't spend too much time on this. It's not super detailed or important. Just put your color down, wipe it down so that it removes a little bit of it. You're leaving this nice kind of really thinned out film of paint. It's nice and dry because you wipe it down, so it's easy to paint over now. And we're ready to move on. Okay, so 45 seconds. Let me run through the questions, comments, things like that. In between steps, folks, I'm going to be looking over at my laptop. If you have questions about anything, please put them down in the comments. If I don't see it, sometimes other people will, and they will answer for me, especially the people that are in my membership group. I've seen a few on here already answering questions, or a couple on here answering questions. Thank you, Tina. If you have any questions, if I don't see the question, one of my members may answer that, or somebody else that knows the answer will answer it for me. Okay, so we've got a nice toned canvas. What is next? So right now, my big brush, the brush that I was just using, went right back went into my water cup. Okay, it's going to sit there until I need it again. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and start painting in the background a bit. Okay, we've got a separation here for the water, and we can start on the top or we can start on the bottom. We're going to do the background for both the sky and the water. Okay, we're going to start. We can start at the bottom or we can start at the top. Typically, I will work my way from top to bottom. Okay, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now. I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue. Okay, once again, that pretty. Ultramarine blue tends to be a little bit of a purplish blue. Okay, which is very, very pretty for doing things like skies and things like that. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to my big 1-inch brush. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I'm just using my water cup, rinsing it out in that water cup. Okay, now I'm going to grab some of my ultramarine blue. I'm going to go like this. We don't need a whole lot of this because we're going to mix it with some white. So all I'm doing with the wet palette is keeping my paints nice and fresh. If you're not familiar with the wet palette, it's basically almost like a Tupperware. It's got a wet sponge in here. A sponge that has water in it. I've got a acrylic paper up on top of it, and then the paints sit on top of that. This helps keep the paints nice and wet. So I'm grabbing my plate here, put some of that ultramarine blue in here, and then I'm actually taking a little bit of white now with the same brush and mixing those together. A little bit of water. Okay, so a nice, kind of a pretty lavender is what we're looking for. Okay, let me grab a paper towel here to remove this drippy paint that we're not going to use anymore on my plate. Okay, so you want a good amount. It doesn't have to be perfectly even. If it's a little bit lighter in some areas, a little darker in other areas, that's perfectly fine. Okay, now we're going to taking my brush, I'm going to dip it in the water just a tiny bit. We don't want to make this really runny like we did the burnt sienna that we used for the background. This is a little thicker. It's going to be a little transparent still, but not anywhere near as transparent as that first layer of paint was. So we start to add this, and I use these long horizontal brush strokes. This is a really pretty color. This combination of this ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna underneath is a really pretty color. I'll give you guys a close-up of the canvas here in just a little bit. Okay, I'm just mixing a little bit more. Here's what I'm doing. I'm coming over and grabbing a little bit of each color, the white and the ultramarine blue. Bringing it back over to my plate and kind of do this. And I go so some of you might be going, well, that doesn't look like the color in the sky on the original. This is just the bottom layer of paint. Over this, we're going to use primary blue later. Okay? All right. You guys got about a minute for this step. What's happening, Trish Welch from Nevada? My first time watching. Well, fantastic, Trish. Welcome to you and all of you that are hanging out today. If you're new, please let me know, or maybe you've only painted with me a couple of times. Let me know in the comments. Also, if you guys want to say hello, as I'm doing, I look over at the comment section in between steps, and I'll try to say hello to you and answer questions too, of course. But definitely say hello to me. Let me know where you're joining me from, who you're joining with. What's happening, Pamela? Welcome, Pamela. Welcome, welcome. Let me give you a close-up to what my painting looks like. So it's a little bit transparent. It's still drying, so we don't have the full effect yet. You can see some of the oranges of the burnt sienna coming through in some areas. It's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, if you went a little heavy on the paint for this step and you covered all of that layer underneath, that's okay. It's not really going to really affect much. We are going to cover up most of that anyway when we come over that with primary blue on a later step. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, next step. Let's clean up that brush once again. We're going to use that brush for the sky at least one more time, so I'm just rinsing it in my cup. Now, when I rinse my brush, I'm not trying to have a completely super clean brush. I just clean it up really well, okay, and I remove any excess paint just like that. All right, so what's the next step? I'm going to start with some of my cadmium orange. This is my cadmium yellow. Sorry, I said orange. Cadmium yellow deep hue. It's kind of a slightly orange yellow. If you've only got one yellow, use that. The sky in this case is, oops, wrong brush. The sky in this case has a bunch of different colors in it, but you don't necessarily have to use the exact colors that I'm using. Now, my studio is pretty hot. I've got a fan blowing and I've got an air conditioner blowing. My studio's in my garage. And even though I've got this on a wet palette, it's still drying my paints a little bit, at least on the surface. So let me put out some more of this paint because we're going to need a little bit of it. Now, the sky, just like the water, is going to require layering. Okay, there's a patience that's required with this kind of a painting. So I'm taking my yellowish color, my yellow orange. I'm going to take a little bit of water. Okay, painting will develop patience if you don't have any, but you definitely want to have some patience because again, this kind of a painting takes a little bit of patience. Okay, I'm also going to take a little bit more white, put it on my wet palette. I used it, most of it up on the previous step. We're going to take a little smidge of white. When I say a smidge, I mean a little tiny smidge. And I'm going to mix it in here. Just raise the color up a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do, a little bit more water just to, I'm going to go like this first. Right about maybe almost halfway down, almost halfway. Draw a little line across. This is my horizon line. And the main thing I want to make sure is that this line is relatively straight, level. Maybe not straight, level. You can refine that and clean that up later, but for now we want it nice and level. As level as we can get it without using an actual level. How's that? Okay, and all I'm doing now is bringing this in here and this yellow-orange color, and I'm spreading it across. What you'll start to see is that this color is a little transparent too because I mixed some water in it. And so what's happening is you're seeing some of the orange color from underneath coming through a bit. That's what we want. Okay, and now, really quickly, now I'm going to take some of my cad orange, or the kind of pinkish orange. I'm going to grab that, blend it in a little bit with that yellow mixture. I'll take a little bit more white, again a smidge, mix those two together. Grab a little bit of water, mix all that in there, and I'm going to come in here and start to add a little bit over here to the sides. Really kind of light, slightly streaky, feathery. So really, really light touch. Same thing over here. I'm using the skinny part of my brush. Okay, very important. Maybe not very important, but it's one of the little details here. Now, if the color that you're mixing right now is strong, it's stronger than mine, and it's deeper, stronger, it's okay. Sky's come in all kinds of different colors and strengths, right? All right, let me give you a close-up. Okay, we've got one more step, and then we're going to move into the water here in a second. One more step to spend up in the sky area, and then we're going to move down. Again, everyone, don't stress. As I always like to say during my sessions, take your time. Don't focus so much on trying to recreate the exact version of what I'm doing over here. Even my new one is even mine, right? That's my original. When I make this one over here, there are going to be some differences. The point isn't necessarily to recreate this version exactly. If you'd like to give it your best shot, absolutely go for it. But don't stress about that too much. Enjoy the process. If you relax, usually the more relaxed you are, within reason, you're going to produce something nice. And you're going to enjoy the process, which is, I think, more important than what you actually create in your actual painting. What's happening, Frankie? What's up? Lori says level to what? You're just drawing a nice level line across here. In other words, level meaning, right? So this would be unlevel. So nice and straight. Level to ground, I suppose, or to your edges, so they match, right? You're looking at the horizon line for that water, nice and level. But good question. I hadn't thought of explaining that, but thank you so much. Yes, Laura, you can use the same dirty water. So if you look at my water cup, same water I've been using this whole time. Okay, and it's going to eventually get really dirty. So at that point, I may consider switching depending on what I'm doing. But I do have a cup with fresh water, you know, on standby in case it comes in handy. What's happening, Mary Lou Harris? Welcome, first timer. Okay, let's continue. So I'm switching brushes. My half-inch flat brush. I'm going to grab a couple of the same colors that we just used: the orange and so I'm using both of these colors, my orange and then my yellow. I'm going to mix these together. I'm going to take a little bit more white this time, so it's a little heavier on the white. So I'm creating a color that's lighter than what we've added in here. Okay, that base color that we just added, this is going to be a little bit lighter. And I'm dipping my brush, just a little bit of water, not too much. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to come across here, come up, come across. So let's grab some more. Okay. A little more, we're going to come in here. Let's see. From top to bottom, here we go. So again, this is your horizon line. From here down, in just a little bit, we're going to lay down those colors for the water. Now, again, everyone, the focus should be on just kind of enjoying the process, especially if you're newer. We're taking our time with this, but everyone paints at a different pace. Usually, the newer you are, the longer it takes for you to paint, and that's normal. If you're struggling to keep up with any of this, the live session can be paused. You can back it up if you miss something. Okay, so if you need to, pause the video and back it up. Okay, or ask me, hey Jesse, I missed that. Can you explain that again? More than happy to do so. This is a complex painting. Even though it is beginner friendly, it is a complex piece. There's lots of steps to the process. But if at any point you get frustrated, if you get stuck, if you're kind of sitting there going, oh man, this isn't working out, my suggestion is that you push yourself through it. The hardest paintings that I've ever done, the ones that took me the longest, the ones that got me the most frustrated, were the ones that I learned the most on. Okay, so if you see yourself through it, hopefully you're not struggling too much at any point. But if you do get to that point, just take a breath, maybe take a walk, come back to it, and just continue painting. Okay, finish up. My suggestion is that you finish. In the end, regardless of what happens, whether you like what you created or not, you're going to come out with something. You're going to come out with experience, which is going to help you on future paintings. You're going to come out a better painter, and that is worth struggling for a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the water. Okay, we've got a combination in here of on the finished piece. We're going to have areas of light color, light blue, dark blue, white, of course, some yellow for the reflections, a little bit of orange. What we're going to do right now is we're going to lay down the base layer of paint. And what that's going to look like is it's going to be a combination of primary blue, which I'm bringing over to my other plate, just grabbing a little bit at a time. A little bit of my just a smidge of the ultramarine blue, a tiny, tiny bit. Mainly it's primary blue. Okay, so primary blue. Then I'm going to grab some white. Now, one of the alternative colors that I put on the list was green. If you've got some green, perfect. If you don't have green, that's okay too. And I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of green, and I'm going to add it in here, just a touch. If I brought it over here. If I didn't bring it over here, then I guess I'm not adding any green. Guess what? Looks like I didn't bring it over from my other table. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. So I'm using just a touch of Hooker's green. This is a kind of a dark foresty green. All this does is it's going to have a little tiny bit of that kind of slight greenish hue to my paint. And I don't need a lot of it, just a bit. I've got it right there on my plate. Grab it, mix it in here. Probably a little too much, so let me grab some more of my primary blue. Grab some white. And again, this is going to be the base color for the entire rest of this bottom half of the paint. So make sure you mix enough. Okay. And a touch of water. I'm dipping my brush in that water. So when I dip my brush in the water, I'm not dipping it all the way down here. It's usually just a little bit at the top. There's enough water over where I can mix it into my paint. Here we go. So the burnt sienna underneath helps turn this slightly greenish anyway. So if you don't use green, you're going to have a little bit of that effect. But a little bit of green will help. And again, it's a very subtle touch. I'm using broad, long brush strokes. A little more paint. So again, everyone, if you missed my announcement at the beginning of the session, next week, I'm going to be teaching you how to make one of these guys. So keep your eyes peeled for the details on that. I don't have the date just yet. You can make your own. This one's, I purchased this one. That's a Masterson's Stay Wet palette. Sometimes I don't know. So I go through periods where I use it a lot, and then I go through periods where I don't. And every time I come back and start using it again, I'm like, oh, why'd I ever stop using you in the first place? Because they come in really handy. They help keep your paint nice and wet throughout the entire process, especially when it's really hot like today. Now you can use it to mix your colors in here too. So what I'm doing on the palette, on the plate, I can do right here. So, it's just something that comes in really handy. They come in different sizes. You can make, when you make some for yourself and make one for yourself, if you decide to do that, you can make them in different sizes. And let's say you finish, another thing that you can do with them, let's say you finish painting today. You're done for the day, but you're not done with the painting. And you've got your paint set out. Close the lid on it. Close the lid on it, and tomorrow your paint will still be wet. It'll keep your paint nice and fresh for a few days. All right, so here we go. Take a look, everybody, little by little. Okay? Little by little, the piece starts to take shape. And again, there's a layering process that's involved with these more complex types of paintings. Most acrylic paintings require some type of layering, but but the more complex, usually the more layers required. And as I said, this is a fairly complex piece, not to try to discourage anyone. Marie Alvarez, what's happening from South Florida? How are you? Thank you for joining us today. First time, huh? Fantastic. Okay, everyone, about a minute, and we're moving on to that next step. Don't forget, don't be shy. Say hello. Let me know where you're joining me from. Janet from Houston. This is my first time, she says. Fantastic. Fantastic. Vicky Contreras says, first time taking one of your classes. Awesome, Vicky. Welcome. Trish says, originally from Louisiana, north of Lake Charles. Awesome. So again, things begin to shape up a little bit at a time. Step by step by step. This is as far as we're going to get today with the water. Tomorrow is when we're going to come in here and add all the layers and things that are going to make this look like water. Now, on the original, excuse me, let me take a little drink here. On that original, I did not spend a lot of time on water. Even with the sky, I didn't spend too much time on it. Everything, especially up close, looks a little bit rough. You can see brush strokes. I like being able to see brush strokes in pieces. It's pretty neat. But it wasn't meant to be super detailed or clean. Up close, you can see a lot of the brush strokes. The water was not meant to be overwhelmingly detailed. Whoops, give me a second, Frank. I had to concentrate there before I knocked over that easel. But none of this piece was meant to be super complicated or detailed. But there are still a lot of steps involved. Okay? But all right, let's go ahead and look back at the sky. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come in here with a layer of primary blue. If you've only got one blue, that's all the blue you're going to be using. If you're at this stage right now where whatever blue you used looks kind of like this, where it's slightly washed out, then you're going to use more of that blue, okay, for this next step. If you have primary blue, so primary blue is exactly what it means. It's the primary blue that's in any color palette. When we talk about primary blue, it is just straight blue. This blue right there, of course, is ultramarine blue mixed with white. In this case, we're going to take primary blue and we're going to mix it with a little bit of white, and we're going to add a nice light layer over this area, most of that area. It produces a really pretty combination. Okay, I'm going to go back to my big 1-inch flat brush. I'm going to clean it up. Still using that same original cup of water. It starts getting dirtier as we go. At the beginning, or even in some cases throughout the entire painting, the water will stay, it won't get so dirty that you can't continue to use it. A lot of it depends on the colors that you're mixing, right? If you're trying to mix a white, for example, and you're using that water, your white's going to change colors. But for the most part, the water is diluted enough where it's not going to affect your colors too much. So I'll use that for as long as I can, and maybe even for the entire rest of the session. We'll see. So again, cleaned it up a little bit. I've got my primary blue that I'm scooping up from my plate over here. Whoops, and I put it in the wrong spot. I put it over my ultramarine blue, so it was meant to go over here. Bring it over here. I'll grab some of the white, mix it once again. What I want is a really pretty, vibrant. It's a light blue, but it's not super light. Okay, primary blue has this really cool, pretty blue. I'll take a little tiny bit of water. Once again, I mix it over here, let everything get nice and flowy. The water will help your paint get flowy if you don't use too much of it. You don't want to use too much so it doesn't make your paint too transparent. And here we go, right over the top of my ultramarine blue. And I'm using these long brush strokes. Whoops, I got a I'm going to mix my color a little bit more. I got some of that white still on the bristles there, so let me get that out of there. And then here we go. So nice and easy, everybody. Again, don't stress. Let's have some fun. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. What I did right now was this. I dipped my brush in my water. I did this. When I say my water, I'm talking about my water cup, right? Same water cup that I've been talking about all along. I dipped my brush. I added a little bit more water to the small section. What that did is it thinned out the paint, made it even more transparent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here. Now we're not going to go all the way down into this purple. I'm going to leave some of that. I want some of that showing. Notice how I'm using my brush. I'm turning it. Okay, something like that. Let me give you a little close-up. It's a little transparent, especially towards the bottom where I watered down the paint a bit. Okay, it's a little transparent up there too. You can see some of the purple and even some of the orange still coming through. Kind of what you want. But again, don't stress too much. If that's not what's happening on your canvas, go with the flow. The more you paint, the more all this starts to make more sense. Okay? So just go with it. Enjoy. What time do we got? 4:52. All right, so we've been at it for about 45 minutes, or not quite. So we still got about another 45, no, almost an hour more to go. Plenty of time. All right, Tina, thank you so much. Tina is one of the members in my art group. She was hanging out today, helping out. I saw her answering lots of questions and stuff like that. So thank you so much, Tina. Really appreciate it. Have an awesome rest of your evening. Barbara Cook. Hey, Barbara from Hurricane, Florida. I made it. Awesome, Barbara. You made it through the last hurricane over in Florida too, it seems like. So awesome. Glad you're here. Pamela Wright, I think I already said hi from Central Florida. There we go. Melissa Persing from Minnesota. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for joining today. You did, Laura? Okay. Which one was that, Laura? Was that the one on the... I'm trying to remember. Which painting was that? Probably one of our more recent paintings. Washington State. Michelle Coakley. What's happening? Michelle and Laura's from California. Awesome. Wave with this. Okay. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. Okay. Next. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to add some of the colors that you see in here. These purples and oranges and reds. The yellows, we're going to start in the center with that sun. Okay, we're going to start with the sun in the center. So for that, you're going to need a little bit of yellow. In my case, I'm going to use just actual yellow. I didn't have any on my palette, but I'm adding some now. So basic yellow. Okay, like canary yellow. If you don't have it, use whatever yellow you've got. Okay, and I'm going to switch over to my number 4 little flat brush. Okay, little detail brush, nothing fancy. So right about like this, I'm going to scoop up some of my yellow. Adding some like that. I'm not going to mix any water with this. Okay, I'm going to go like this, right in the middle. So if you imagine a line down the middle of your canvas, try to kind of gauge it so you're right down the center. You're going to go right on the horizon line and create a little dome shape. I'm actually going to add just a smidge of white to my paint because it's not light enough. So where'd my white paint go? Right in front of me. Just sitting with the bottle backwards so I didn't see it. Okay. So a little bit of white. I'm going to bring it over here. Mix it in with the yellow. Just brighten the yellow up a little tiny bit. And again, right here in the center. Get a little bit of a kind of a dome-ish shape. I didn't add any water to this. Okay. Now I'm going to go like this. From that center, I'm pushing the brush against the canvas and going like this as I'm moving it across, creating little streaks. Okay, then we're going to go maybe up here. All of this starts to take shape a little bit at a time, everybody. A little bit in here, maybe. So again, there's no water in my paint in this case. Now, not every paint is going to work the same. Even though we're all using acrylic paint, or I'm assuming most of us are using acrylic paint, it depends on the type of acrylic paint that you're using as well. The brand is a little bit of a all acrylic paint works basically the same, but there are nuances. So, same brush, grabbing some of my pink peach, my cat orange, again pinkish orange, and I'm going to come in here and do a little more of that. So, just scooped up some more. Let me put some more on my palette because I'm out. Okay, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of pink. Okay, I don't need to really mix it on my palette. I'm just going to come straight to the canvas. I'm just grabbing more of this. Sometimes I'll mix it with a little bit of yellow. Sometimes I just bring it straight to the palette or to the canvas. Put it right in there. Esther Coral Carlson, south of San Jose, California. Awesome, Esther. I'm south of San Jose too. I'm right in between San Diego and you guys. Rhonda, how are you? Rhonda Kumpsky, looks like. It is recorded, most definitely. Both today and tomorrow are being recorded and will be available immediately afterwards for replay. Marnie, don't worry about it. You didn't miss anything. You could just back the video up to the beginning if you want. Oh, you're you got a busy night. No worries. It'll be waiting for you to come back and paint on replay. Elaine, how's it going from Ontario, Canada? Laura, do you mean, so your question is, you say, what if I painted orange all the way down? All the way down all the way down to the bottom? Is that what you're saying? Sorry about that. I just now saw your question. So kind of depends on what you're saying. What you mean. All right, so a little bit of orange. Okay, we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna take a little bit of white, same brush, my little number 4 flat brush. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow too, so give me a second and put some more out on the plate. And in this case, it's my yellow-orange color, my CAD yellow deep hue. If you don't have this, then use your regular yellow. Again, everyone, I got to continue to speak words of encouragement because I know, especially for those of you that are newer, that you might be going, what the heck, Jesse? I thought you said this is going to be beginner friendly. So the instruction part of it especially is beginner friendly. We're taking our time with it. But again, there are going to be moments of frustration for some of you, whether you're newer or whether you've been painting a while. I still get frustrated from time to time. It happens. It is part of the process. Don't stress out. Push through it. You're going to be okay. I promise. Here's what I did. I just took some cad orange, some cad yellow, and a little bit of white, mixed it together. Dip my brush in the water. Very important step. Dip that brush in that water. You want a nice thinned out paint. You don't want it to be super heavy. What you're going to do is you're going to start adding in some of your little clouds. And this is the first step of the clouds. We're going to layer these, and at first they might look a little bit greenish against the sky because we got that blue sky in there. That's okay. We're going to come back and layer them so that they don't look so greenish. Excuse me. Let me give you a close up. Here's what I'm doing with my brush. Watch what I'm doing. I'm dabbing. I'm using the corners. I turn. Okay, maybe I'll come up a little bit. You want this paint to be transparent, and you get it transparent by adding water to it. If it's too intense, it's going to overpower that background, and they're going to look slightly cartoony. And it's okay if that's what you're going for. But if you want a little bit of realism in those clouds, in this particular case, we start by using that thinned out paint. Okay, so and we're going to come up. Let's see, where's my cloud going to end up? Somewhere over here. Sometimes it's little tiny touches like that. Okay, I'm trying to do the rest of this by holding the canvas, so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. Try to mimic what I'm doing. Do your best. But don't stress too much. Probably about as many people as are painting with this session is how many different types of clouds we're going to end up with. That's just the way that this goes. Even if I was to teach you my exact technique, let's say you were to sit next to me and we work together through the painting of the clouds, eventually you're going to develop your own technique, your own style, and your clouds may end up looking a little different. It's perfectly okay. My point is that it's okay to add your own touches, even if they're unintentional. Your own flick of the wrist, your own vision, your own tastes, etc., etc. It's okay to add those touches. And it's okay even if you try to match my clouds exactly. It's okay to not be able to recreate them, especially if you're newer to painting. It's okay. So now I'm taking more of the cad orange, just the orange. I throw it right in here. Again, I dip my brush in that water. Very important that I'm using some water because I want to thin the paint out. The thinner it is, the more transparent it is. But the water also makes them a little bit more, a little slicker. Whoops, let me grab a bit more white. I want to throw some white in there. A little smoother. Okay, let's see. Bring this in here. Right here, I've got very little paint on my brush. I'm just lightly dabbing. And then your placement could be different, right? If you say, oh, you know what, I like that, but I'm going to put that in here somewhere. Okay, a little bit at a time. And then again, everybody down to the blue. Yeah, you could do that. So orange from the top all the way down. Absolutely. There's skies that are all orange, right? So yep, absolutely. If you don't like the blue on top, or you've got a different idea about it, maybe you love it, but you're like, I think I would love it even more if it had all orange. Yes, absolutely. You can do that. Or maybe your sky's all blue or all purple. Okay. Absolutely. Hi, Marnie. I think you're asking about the recordings, right? Yep. You're welcome. Okay, we're getting there, everyone. Look at that. Okay, again, we went from if you were to be taking snapshots of what we've been going through. Okay, it's about layering little by little by little. So I have, when I did the original, I was taking pictures. I think I did a series of like 20 pictures or something. And it's pretty cool to look at, kind of like a little slideshow where it goes from one step to the next to the next. You start with this like blank canvas and you end up with something pretty cool. But again, I want to stress the notion of the patience, of the building up in layers, and accepting that everyone's going to turn out with something a little bit different or a lot different. It's all good. Okay, same brush, my little number 4 flat. I'm going to take some, let's see, I'm going to take, oh, I didn't put it, oh, I did put it on here. Put some red on here, and I couldn't see it anymore. So I've got red on my palette here, my wet palette. Scoop some of this up. We don't need a lot of this. This is, I use the red deep hue, but use whatever red you've got, right? I use the cadmium red deep hue, real pretty deep crimson. Okay, and I'm going to take a little bit of the orange. I'm going to mix it in so there's kind of an in-between color. Now, this is a really strong color. It could really impact your painting quite a bit. So use it sparingly, and if you like it, then use more of it. I just added some water to it. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that with the cadmium orange to get it a little bit more. It actually turns it almost pinkish. A little bit more water. And here we go. Just a dash of white before I forget that. Here we go. I'm going to pick some spots here. So this is coming out a bit more reddish, a bit more on the pink side than my original. On my original, I used a little bit more of I think I mixed in some cadmium, not cadmium, sorry, some burnt sienna in there. But that's okay, I kind of like this. Now, if I thought this was too much on the red side, I would go in there and I would throw in some of the burnt sienna. Kind of like that. Makes my sky a bit more vibrant. Okay, right over here. And I'm overlapping, right? Some spots. I'm just picking, where do I want one of these little red things? Red billowy clouds off in the distance. Where do I want it? Well, it looks like it's going to fit right about here. And then I just go for it. And I paint. I don't need a lot of paint on the brush. Even as I start to run out of paint on the brush, I can use the rest of it. And I press a little harder and I spread the paint out a little bit more. Okay, a bit more water. Okay, a bit more of my pink. Maybe I'll throw in a little bit of yellow. What the heck? So my CAD yellow deep hue, I'm going to throw in a little bit right over here. Change it up a bit. If it starts getting too uniform, too much of the same color, we can change it up. a little bit more of the orange. And then I don't fully mix everything. I just kind of let it sit slightly kind of swirly where you see a little bit of both colors. Oops, I got too much red on my brush. I'm using a paper towel here to just wipe the paint off. And here we go. And then I think I did mention it at the beginning of the session. For those of you that might have missed it, next month, I think it's on the 21st. I'll set up the event later in the month, later this week, September 21st. Don't quote me on that. I have a guest artist coming on the Painting with Jessie page. She's going to be teaching us how to paint one-stroke flowers. It's a fall, autumn-ish piece. So one stroke, for those of you that don't know what that is, pretty cool way to paint things like flowers. There's all sorts of things you can do with it, but she's going to teach us how to make leaves and flowers with that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Okay, so I'm scooping up a little bit of white and throw it into that mixture of the red and the pink, sorry, red and the orange. And again, if you're not signed up to the Painting with Jessie page, lots of cool stuff that we do on here. And I'm hoping that at least once a month I get a guest artist in here showing us something outside of what I teach, or even kind of what I teach, but in their own style. So I'm just coming in here, and this is a lighter version of all those colors, just to add variation in here. Just coming in here and give you guys all a close-up. So that's my point. Sign up to the email list so you don't miss any of the fun stuff. There's a link in the description of this video if you're not on there already. Things like stencils for my events. You should have gotten a stencil for this one. Oops, I got some red in there. Look at that. I didn't realize I got some red in here. But look what we got, folks. The foundation for a really cool sky. Okay? Little by little by little. Okay, back to that same color that I was just using. Throwing a little bit more white. White, besides lightening things up, making them brighter, it can make things a bit chalky. Okay, now I'm taking a tiny bit of my purple. I've got that dark purple here, not the sky ultramarine purple or ultramarine blue. This is purple. We got the deoxazine purple. I'm taking a little bit of this and throwing it into that mixture as well. A little bit of water. A little bit more water. And here we go. I want this to be really transparent paint. Okay? And I'm going to come in here and then also, for those of you that might be on the wait list already or are interested or heard, the door to my membership opens back up next month to let new people in. Okay, details are coming out on that soon. We paint about 5 times a month, 4 or 5 times a month paintings. We also do drawing sessions and technique classes and things like that. Lots of fun stuff in there. Lots of people in there. So for those of you that are interested in furthering your painting journey, just more of the same, folks. A little water, a little bit of the same mixture, just a really transparent color. And I make it transparent so that you can see some of the colors underneath coming through. I'm going to switch brushes here. My 1/2-inch flat brush. All of that and more coming up. Halloween's going to be fun. November is going to be fun. Favorite time of year is coming up. November through December. Always so much fun. That's when lots of creativity, a lot of really cool stuff to create. Going in again, just working with the same colors and little white, little yellow. You know what I haven't used yet? I haven't used pink. I'm gonna grab a little bit of pink right here from my plate. Okay. A little bit. And I'm gonna throw it in there too. A little bit of water. Again, we're still working on a really transparent layer. Need more pink. If I say pink and yours doesn't turn out too pink, okay. Use what turned out. Now we're not done with these clouds up here. We got more stuff to do up there, in case you're wondering. So watch what's happening here. There's going to be a lot of variation in our paintings. Yours may not look just like mine, but it still looks like a really cool sky. That's what you want. I'm not grading you. I'm not saying yours has to look just like mine or anything like that. Okay? The importance of all of this is to enjoy the process. Get a little creative. Maybe relax a little bit if you can. I know sometimes painting can be a little stressful for some people. I'm going to come up in here with the same color. It's kind of interesting. Down here, this color looked more pinkish. When I put it up against the blue sky, it changes to a bit more of a yellow-orange color. So I'm going to take a little bit more of my pink, just a little tiny bit. I don't want to go too heavy on that because that's going to overpower everything in that sky. And then I want to water it down once again. Water it down. So where am I going to start with this? There we go. That's pretty. Look what we got so far. We're getting there, everybody. Okay. Give you guys about a minute to catch up. Maybe not to catch up, but do your best. And again, you don't need to catch up. You can back the video up, pause it, all that good stuff. Feels like I'm missing comments. Comments might be popping up, but I'm missing them. I'm just scrolling back, going backwards in time, everybody, in case I missed some comments. Or if you made a comment or a question, put a question in the comments and I missed it, please put it in there again. What's happening, Marie? I think I said hello to you earlier, just in case. I did say hello. I think I did. All right. It's as far back as I can go in the comments. Sounds like you guys are probably busy trying to do your thing over there. Darla, what's happening? Tanya Fry from South Africa. Oh, cool. Very cool. Lou Weaver, I believe you painted with me before, from Raleigh, North Carolina. Maya from Mexicali. What's happening, Maya? From Baja California. Fantastic. Hello from Kamloops, Shirley McNeil. Kamloops. Where is that? Where is that, Shirley? Trish Welch from Nevada. Sorry, folks, that were on Facebook. I didn't mean to neglect you guys, but I had to come over to my streaming software to see your comments. All right, gotta get back to the feed. Okay, everyone, we've got about 30, 40 minutes left. Don't give up on me now. Okay, if you're getting tired or fatigued, you can always take a break, walk away from it, come back to the recorded session. Okay, don't stress about that. Please, whatever you do, don't give up. If hopefully none of you are struggling. It'd be awesome if you're all enjoying it, just having a good time with it. If you're struggling a little bit or a lot, please don't give up. Push through, push on through. Okay, so what's next, Jesse? Let's finish up some of the details in the clouds. I'm going to use this little number 2 flat brush. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow. Let's see, which yellow am I going to use? I'm going to use my regular canary yellow. Okay, I don't have any left on my palette over here, so I'm going to place some there. Okay, a little bit of water. Dipping my brush just a tiny bit in the water. Whoops, I kind of jumped my steps a bit. Bring that paint over to my palette over here. Got a hair or something on my face. A little bit of white. Okay, I'm not going to mix any water in this case. Okay, I want a really light yellowish, so lots of white. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to remove lots of this paint. So there's not much left on here. Come up in here. This is all dry, so I can place my finger right on the canvas. What I'm going to do is just lightly touch it and just kind of pull a little bit. Okay, I think I need a bit more white in there, so I'm just going to clean it on my paper towel here. There's a paper towel laying in front of me on my table that I just kind of use to press down and pull some of that paint away off the brush without having dipped the brush in the water cup. Okay, so a little bit more white. Here we go. Just lightly dabbing against that canvas. Okay, that's like little touches, and I kind of brush away a little bit. I want this to be a little dainty cloud up in the sky. Sometimes I press very lightly. Sometimes I press it down a little harder. It depends on the pressure. And I can just kind of turn. This is what's called the dry brush method. I don't have any water in the paint. Okay. Take a little bit of this and move over here. Just using my finger, pressing down a bit. Okay, we're working on those clouds now. Let's see, more white. We're going to make some light clouds now. Okay, a little bit of my orange. More white. Not fully mixed. I can see colors of both in there. Okay, here we go. Same method as I used up here. I'm just lightly dabbing. If it gets too intense, I can just use my finger to either dab or pull some of the paint off. Okay, I'm going to try to give you guys a close-up again so that it makes it easier to see the technique. Fingers on the canvas, so it controls my pressure. I can control the pressure a little better. As long as the canvas is dry here, I'm able to do this. So these colors begin to pop a bit against those colors in the background. Depending on what's in the background, you come through a little bit on these clouds, and it enhances them. Now, we're not done with these clouds up here. These are washed out right now. We've got details to add to those, and that'll come in a little bit. Okay, here we go. More of the same. I'm going to grab a little bit of pink now and just mix in a tiny bit of that pink. A little more. Still really light though. And I'm going to come in here and let's see. It's a really light touch, everyone. I'm not pressing down hard. Sometimes I'm dabbing, sometimes I pull a little bit. Okay, and sometimes they're a little lighter, so I add more white to them, to my paint. Okay, here I'm going to kind of I'm not doing any birds today, in case anybody's wondering. I missed my comment from earlier. Those birds will come tomorrow after we're finished with the water. The sky should probably be a little more difficult for most people, I would imagine, which is why we're doing it first. Although maybe I should have done the water first, so that some of you guys are going, oh, this is hard, Jesse, what the heck? So that way you guys would be more likely to come back to me. But I believe in you guys. I think you're all going to come back, either with the live or with the recorded session. It's all good. Okay, just white. Right in here, we're going to create a little sun. Now, it does not have to be perfectly circular. This is a hazy sun. It looks slightly distorted. It's up to you, though. If you want yours to be nice and straight, up to you. You can do that. Or nice and perfectly curved. Taking some yellow and white, mixing them together. Okay, I don't want this plate to get all dirty right now, so I'm going to take and do that over here. So this is white and yellow. And we go right around the edges now. We're going to enhance this some more in a bit. The centered part is what's the most vibrant. Sounds good, Vicky. No worries. You can do that. You can do your clouds later. You can also, some of you may do this already. You can take a blow dryer and speed things up. But it could be a good time for a break. Good opportunity for you to take a break. Nice and bright sun. Glaring. Okay, a little bit more white on my brush. I'm going to come up in here and just from time to time, make sure you're taking a little step back and looking at your masterpiece. Sometimes if we're too close or we're painting for too long of a period, we'll develop a little bit of a tunnel vision. So it's good sometimes to look away, even take a little walk over to the kitchen, get some water or whatever, come back, look at it again, and reassess. And you go, oh, I was missing that. How did I miss that? Or, I need to adjust this or make a change there. Very common. Yep, still dry brush, Deed. Great question. Still dry brush. I'm still using a dry brush around the sun. Folks, if there's any part of my instruction that isn't clear at any point, please don't be shy. Ask your question. Right? I've been doing this a while, so it's easy for me to just kind of forget about the instruction part of it and just kind of start going with the flow a little bit. So if you miss something or something's not clear, let me know. And I'm more than happy to address it. A little bit more white. I'm going to make my center a little bit brighter. And again, my circle here in the center, my sun isn't perfectly circular. It's a little bit it's a hazy sun. You're looking at it and you can't quite make out the circle part of it. Okay? And I'm just lightly this is a really, really light touch that I'm using right now. I'm just feathering the brush around the edges to help with the blending. Okay. Okay, back to the white and the yellow mixture. Maybe more yellow this time. Still dry brushing. I'm going to come in here and just here's what I'm doing. Really light touch. Really, really light touch. The glow of the sun is getting spread out and reflected into the clouds and sky around that sun. As my brush starts to run out of paint, I continue to pull and kind of push around that little bit of paint that's left on there and just slightly enhances the area around it. It helps create that glow. Thank you, Mila. Thank you, thank you. It is my goal, everyone. It is my goal to try to explain things as clearly as I can. Doesn't always work. I think I usually do a pretty good job, but sometimes, So again, if you ever have questions, do not be shy. Ask them in the comments. So I'm just going to rinse my brush a little bit. Okay, clean that up one more time. Still got my dirty water in here. I haven't done anything different. Haven't switched out my water. There's no need to at the moment. There may be no need to throughout the entire painting process. But there's always a good idea to keep that paint handy, or the extra water handy. Okay, let me see. There it is. I need a bigger desk, or I need some shelves next to me so I can reach over and grab stuff. Okay, I mentioned earlier that I've got this other number 2. Between the two, and they're not quite exactly the same size, even though they're both number 2s, but this one's a little flatter. This is the one that I've been using. Okay, this one here is a little fluffier. It's older. I beat up on it a little bit, so the bristles spread out a bit. Okay, I'm going to use this one. There's not a huge difference between the two with what they produce, but there are some subtle differences that are kind of cool. So I'm going to take a little bit of the primary blue. I'm going to take some white, and I mix the two together. Again, dry brush method. What this color here is a lighter version of what's in my sky at the moment. slightly lighter. I want a slightly more subtle, slightly subtly lighter version of that paint that's in the sky. So what happens when I come over and start to add it here, it gives me a little tiny, barely there cloud. And I can just throw in a few here, a little there. Okay, now I'll just kind of reach over and dip the brush just in the white. Let's let me see if I can just grabbing a little bit of the white. So I just kind of touch the white a bit. And then right over the top of my blue, coming in and just a little tiny bit for highlight. Still dry brushing. Okay. All right. Let me take a step back. We're down the home stretch. Okay, we're down the home stretch of creating the sky. So just a few we're just adding little details now, little tiny touches that mainly what I want is these lighter clouds to pop a little bit more. They kind of glow over here in the original. That's because there's a little bit more white in the paint that I'm going to place on top of these lighter clouds that I've got. Now, when I do this step, I'm not going to cover the entire cloud completely. When you're creating clouds, there's subtle changes in color that make them look realistic. So on this already, especially again, we're talking about the lighter clouds, these lighter versions of the clouds have a little more yellow in them, or a little bit more of the orange, or a little bit more of the pink, which mutes them down a bit. What I'm going to do next is add a bit more white to the mixture. Use the same mixtures that I used earlier, but more white. When I place that on top of these clouds, they're going to glow a little bit. Okay, they're drawing both on the white paint that I'm placing on top of them and the colors underneath to kind of glow a bit. There's a bit of a glow. It's an illusion, right? They're not really glowing, but they do look like they glow a little bit. And it's all because of that layering process. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. And then we're also going to enhance the clouds up in the sky, but we want the higher ones up. We make some adjustments to those. We'll look at it again. If there are any minor touches left tomorrow when we start our second session, we'll probably address all of that first before we get into the water. As I mentioned, the details in the sky are a lot more elaborate than the stuff in the water. The water's a little bit more straightforward. So, okay, let me clean my brush. I'm using the same little brush that I just introduced to you guys. If you don't have something like this, use what you've got. Use what you've been using. Something to keep in mind if you're newer at painting and you decide you want to continue painting, or you've decided you want to continue painting, the longer you paint, the more tools you start to add to your toolkit. There's no way to learn everything all at once. No possible way. So patience, once again, is what's going to get you there. You slowly learn new techniques. You learn what brushes you like. I may like particular brushes for particular techniques, and then you find that other brushes work better for you on the same style of painting. So it's just a matter of working through it. Okay, so I've got some orange, or the yellow again, sorry. The cad orange. I'm gonna take some of that, bring it over to my palette. I'm gonna bring some of the cad. So cad yellow, cad orange. I'm gonna bring some of both. I'm gonna bring some of the white now. I think I need a little bit more white. Again, this mixture that I'm going to create is going to be mostly white. You don't need a lot of this. You need just a little bit makes a big difference. A little bit of pink. We're down to the finish line for the sky. Again, minus maybe a couple of details tomorrow, which will help me because we've been painting a while now, and I also develop a little bit of that tunnel vision that I was talking about. So when I look at it again I may look at it again tonight, but if I look at it again tomorrow after a few hours, whenever I look at it, it's going to make a. I'm going to be able to see some things that I want to touch up before we actually delve into the water tomorrow. So again, white, some cad yellow, cad orange, mostly white, no water in here. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to start to, again, you don't want to do the entire cloud. You just want to do parts of these clouds. And sometimes you go outside of the cloud. You don't have to do it exactly over every single bit of the original cloud. You can create areas outside of that. And not all of them. You don't have to do this to every single cloud that you have. Just find little parts of them. So again, here's what I'm doing. So let's take this cloud right here, this little tiny thing. I got a little tiny bit. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Whoops. I want to add some there. I don't know why my brain went there. Getting a little tired, I guess. But just going to take a little bit of white over that sun. Look at the glow on that sun. Look how it looks like it's glowing. And the glow from that sun is what's making it look like these clouds are glowing. These clouds up here are reflecting the glow in the sun. Okay, that's the idea behind this. Okay. Lastly, we're going to go up here and touch up these other clouds, do a couple of refinements up there, and then we'll take a step back, look at the progress, look at where we are, and we'll call it a day, call it a session. Okay. Pinks, oranges, yellows, whites, maybe a little bit of purple. Back to my big brush, and I'll switch over to my number 2. So not my big brush, but my number 4. I'll go back and switch to my number 2 here in a bit. So I'm just going to take I'm just going to add it right over on. I'm going to do it on a new plate. It's a little hard to see what I've got going on here. So right on my plate, a little tiny bit of my cad orange, a bit of my cad yellow, some white, let's throw in a little bit of the pink. I'll show you guys in a second what I've got on my palette, just so you guys can kind of. We could use a little bit of purple, so we'll throw some purple in there. And what the heck, some red. Again, a tiny, tiny bit. Red, purple, pink, orange, yellow, white. Okay, and then number 4 brush. I'm going to start not on the clouds up on top. I'm going to start right over in this area. I'm going to add some of the darker elements that I have there on the sides. I mix some red and some purple, throwing a little bit of orange, some white. Too much. I added too much white there. A bit more reddish, a bit more purple. kind of a violet color. Okay, I'll come in here. I'm not going to add too much of this. This color is a little too violet, too purple. Although it's pretty, it's going to throw off my painting a little too much, so I don't want to add too much of that. The original had a little bit more reds and oranges in there, and that's okay. Again, I'm not trying to recreate the exact version of that original. We're just getting kind of close. We're just getting close. I also threw in a little tiny bit of yellow in here now. Oh, water. Let me throw in some water. What's happening, Anna? No worries. Okay, so in this case, it's not dry brush. I threw in some water to thin the paint out. It also reduces the impact. Now you see what I did there? I started to paint and I realized this is too strong of a color. So I needed to mute it down. I could also remove it. I could erase it. I could wipe it off. When it's still wet, it's easy to wipe paint off. But another option was to mute the paint, thin it, which is what I'm doing now with that water. I'm adding the water to it, it thins it out. Now I can come in here and it's a little closer to what I was looking for. Now, if you don't like this color, you don't want this part in your painting, then don't add it. It's okay. You can change whatever you want on this piece also. Right? It's something that some people are going to opt to change things quite a bit even. Or you're using colors that I don't have because that's all you got. So more water, more white to tone it down a bit more, and then here we go. There we go. That's more like the color that I was going for. Sometimes we got to pivot. I'm just going back and painting over this a little bit to minimize the strength of that color. It's, again, don't get me wrong. It's a pretty color. I just don't want too much of that in here. All right. So back to the clouds up on top. Same brush. I'm going to clean it up. Some orange. Probably going to need more of that. Some yellow. Some white. We'll start with that. Some water. Again, thin out that paint. We don't want it too intense. And then we're going to move up and start. Now, if your clouds appear really thick or really intense, or if they're not quite the shape that you want, tomorrow, I guess we could do it today. We'll look at the time. But maybe one thing that we can do tomorrow is come in with some primary blue. Hold that thought. I don't know that I want to get into that just yet. We'll see where we are at the end of the session, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. I don't want to throw anybody off. Let's go ahead and continue with these little clouds. So just dip more water or my brush into my water. Okay, come in here. Again, I'm not covering every bit of the clouds. I'm kind of picking and choosing where I go with this. Just because I've got an orange cloud there doesn't mean that I'm going to cover the entire thing. So here, for example, maybe I'll focus more on the center. So we have both a more thinned out area where you can see more of that background and a heavier area. Look at that, some of that red that's still in the brush just came out. Pretty cool. Happy little accidents. Okay, let's see. We're going to vary things a bit. So grabbed a bit more of the cad yellow. Throw it in there also. Throw in a bit of white to lighten that up. Again, not too much paint on the brush. Let's thin that out a bit with the water. So dip that brush in there. And here we go. Just little touches here and there. Don't have to put it everywhere on that cloud, right? I'm not going to take it and add it everywhere. I'm just add it here, add it there. Smidge more white. Throw that in there. Now what I'm going to do is just create some really nice highlights. So it's mainly white. And then I'm just going to come over and find little areas that all right, let's take a little step back. See where we are. Okay. So there are some differences between the two pieces, but everything still works. And that's what's important. Yours could be very different from mine as far as the colors, as far as placement of your elements, where your clouds are, where your. Let me try something here. Tighten my. I want to give you guys a little bit of a better view. So your elements could be very different from mine as far as placement. But as long as it looks like a sky, it looks like you've got some clouds up there, you've got your sun, you got some variations in color, that's what matters. Now, what I was talking about earlier, if your clouds, let's say your clouds are too bulky, they're too bulky, too big, they're too large in your sky. Tomorrow, once we're done with the water, okay, that's I think the best way to approach this. When we're done with the water, the last thing that I'll do, in case any of you have that as an issue, we can come in here with another layer of the primary blue, as I mixed it earlier with some white, and we can come in here and just touch areas around your clouds. So in other words, do another layer of paint all throughout, but use that to make your clouds a little bit smaller. I did that a little bit on the original. It's kind of hard to tell, but my clouds were a little larger. They're a little too kind of bulky, so I used that to clean those up. And it actually created a really subtle, but really nice effect. That I see a little bit of it here, but it's much more evident in there, where that extra layer of that primary blue and white paint, because it wasn't the exact mixture as the original, because it's kind of close, gives you that extra little element that creates kind of like it creates a bit of a more interesting painting, which is what layering paint does. Layering paint, if you're layering the right colors, if you're layering it in the right way, starts to create really interesting characteristics in the painting. Anyway, so we'll talk about that tomorrow at the end of the session. Let me show you guys a close-up, see if you guys can see it. So what I mean is, and again, it's kind of subtle, I came in with a second layer of paint, this primary blue and white mixture, and I just tucked in some of the paint around the clouds to make the clouds a little bit smaller. What that did, because it wasn't the exact same original color as that first layer of primary blue, it created a really neat subtle effect in that sky, which we'll try to mimic at the end of the session tomorrow. For those of you that have large clouds, or for some of you that just want to go ahead and throw those in there, okay? Throw that in there because that does create a pretty neat change in the colors of that sky. We can also use it to come in, for example, you see some variations in here where it kind of hugs some of the sky and then it comes back up, comes back down. Well, we can do that and create that slight effect in the original, in the new painting, okay? But anyway, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I hope you didn't struggle too much. If you're newer though, or even if you've been painting a while, please understand that part of the process is struggling a bit. You have to kind of let your brain work through it. Sometimes it takes walking away. Sometimes you're like, Jesse's showing this in a particular way, but it's not working for me. What can I do? Or what, if I have more experience, other experience, what can I draw from my other experiences that might help me create this? And then you experiment. Experimentation is big. Even though I'm showing you the steps, your brushes may be a little different. Your paint may be a little different. The amount of water that you're mixing could be different. The temperature in your studio or your home or wherever it is that you're painting will affect the drying time. And so your results, everybody's results are going to be a little different. Even if we're all using the exact same supplies, our results could be a little different because of that. Yep, so 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, okay, just like today, same time as today. So absolutely, 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, 4 p.m. we'll do part 2. And I hope to see all you guys here. If you cannot make it, just remember it's being recorded. If you were just listening today and you didn't know what was going on, first time maybe you heard about the session, you're like, oh, what is this? I teach everything from scratch, but there is a link in the description of the video where you could download a little fact sheet that kind of gives you a little bit of help to figure, kind of a little bit of a background on the painting or tips and tricks perhaps. But there's also a stencil that kind of helps you lay out your painting, at least mentally, if you don't necessarily go in there and put it out in a drawing, in a sketch. Okay, so if you're interested in that, click on that. All right, guys, Melissa, you are very welcome. My pleasure. Thank you so much for the compliment. I appreciate that. Pamela Wright, you got it. That's right, Sue, 6 p.m. Central Time. Central Time is 6 p.m., so that would be 7 p.m. East Coast. Okay? Let's see. But everybody, thank you for joining me today. I know, it was a little detailed and stuff. I hope you all, again, managed it okay. If not, as soon as the video is over, you can back it up to the beginning and start all over again. Go back to anything you need to refresh or anything like that. And then when you're all done, I do hope that you guys share your paintings with me. If you want to share your works in progress with me, you can. You can message me directly here on Facebook on the Painting with Jesse page. YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can go to my email, paintingwithjesse@gmail.com, and mail me your works in progress. I'd love to see what you've got. If you want to ask me questions, you can as well. All right? But okay, really quickly, so I'm not neglecting my YouTube folk. Canada says Shirley, awesome. Darla, okay. Oh, that was from earlier. Okay, don't have any new comments over there on YouTube, but there are a few people on YouTube watching, so thank you there as well. Okay, all right, everybody, thank you again. Time for dinner for me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.